What is up, Vikings fans? Today we're going to be talking about if Brian O'Neill can, in fact, become a Pro Bowl right tackle. I believe he can. Hope he can. But before we do start talking about it, we're going to ask you guys to start by subscribing down below. Also, leaving a comment. Do you think Brian O'Neill can be a franchise right tackle or a Pro Bowl right tackle, starting in the 2020 season? Also, leave us a like. It helps people find us and it helps us grow the show. So make sure you guys leave us, leave us a like and a comment. Brian O'Neill, he was a former stand-up basketball player and tight end coming out of a Salesianum High School. I hope I said that right. I probably didn't. But he was recruited as a tight end, switched to tackle at Pitt. Had extensive experience at both tackle positions while he was at Pitt. Little kind of a cool thing for you. You know, he carried the ball 3 times. Little side note, carried the ball 3 times for 39 yards, 2 of which resulted in touchdowns. Maybe we should start giving the ball to Brian O'Neill? Who knows? In total, once again, had 3 carries for 39 yards. Even threw a couple passes. Maybe we're looking at the next, the refrigerator, otherwise known as William Perry. Nobody? Okay. So started a total of 37 games, both at a combination of right and left tackle. Got multiple honors, got a lot of things going out at Pitt. Really just he was probably their best offensive lineman, to be quite honest with you. And I think that's a big reason as to why, Slick Rick Spielman drafted him in the second round of the 2018 NFL draft, 62nd overall. And quite frankly, he just was one of those guys coming out that was just really athletic, ran a 4.8 40. And I mean, obviously, that tight end and basketball frame helped him out, helped out in the athleticism department. And ever since then, he was just, a guy that was very impressive at Pitt, and that kind of translated to the NFL. In 2018, he started 11 of 15 games that he played in. Rashad Hill went down at right tackle, and then when he was able to come back, I mean, man, Brian O'Neill just took over. I think the Vikings got a little bit more value than they were expecting, because I think a lot of analysts were saying this guy was going to have to bulk up. He couldn't handle a bull rush. He didn't have as good of an anchor as a lot of people thought. So really great to see, especially when you consider the fact that the Vikings offensive line hasn't exactly been anything to write home about in probably the last decade-ish. Maybe Brett Favre's first year. I don't know. But I still think, his first year in the NFL, he earned a 63 he graded out at a 63 according to PFF. Once again, he took over for Rashad Hill when he went down. And honestly, he was probably a little bit better, or the same amount of value that we were getting from Mike Remmers. So I think that was something that was very big, and something that the Vikings were very lucky to have. Honestly, from the first year that he came out, Brian O'Neill gave the Vikings a lot of value, a guy that they could definitely trust in at a right tackle. So that was something very big. Had 7 penalties. I think that's kind of something that 4 penalties. I mean, that's not great. It was even a little worse than last year 2, but a lot better in year 2 as well. In 2019, he started all 15 games during the regular season that he played in. Obviously, Mike Zimmer benched all the starters against the Bears, and hey, the Vikings still almost beat the Bears. So hey, that's pretty impressive. He earned a 70.8 PFF grade. I think he's only allowed 1 sack in his career, which is very impressive when you consider he's going up against guys like Khalil Mack from the Bears, and a lot of good pass rushers in this NFC North. And I think it's something that's really impressive. When you get both the Sedarius and both the Smiths in Green Bay, and I think that it's impressive, especially only allowing 1 sack against them. And I think it's one of those things where you have to be happy with that. I think you have to learn to be able to take what you can get, especially when, I feel like before the Vikings Slick Rick selected Pat Elflein, you kind of had to deal with what you had as on the offensive line for Minnesota. So it's definitely great to see, that Rick's kind of finally putting in some capital. Obviously, a couple years ago when he drafted Pat Elflein in the 3rd round, and then he got Brian O'Neill in the 2nd round the year after that, and then this last year got Garrett Bradbury, and this year got Ezra Cleveland, who I'm hoping can come out and maybe do something for him this year as well. Once again, 7 penalties in year 2, not exactly something to write home about, but not a lot of sacks. I think only 1 sack again, and I think it's something that you're watching this guy develop before your very eyes. And and he also started both playoff games against the Saints and the 49ers. So I'm definitely thinking that he's a guy that's going to take a step forward this year. He's going to be finally going to break out of his shell. Rick Dennison's done a fantastic job with him, and really a lot of the Vikings offensive line for that matter. I think that was a big reason as to why the Vikings were much improved this year. It was because, obviously Garrett Bradbury was a big find, but overall, the Vikings offensive line was very much improved, even though there's still a lot of room to grow, especially who are we going to have starting at left guard. That's a big question. And I think, at left tackle, are they going to maybe see if there a competition comes up between Riley Reef and the new second-round pick Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State? I think it's one of those things where you got to be happy if you're a Vikings fan. There's competition. There's new draft capital going into this offensive line, and that's something you have to be definitely excited to see. And then you also have to look on the other side. Drew Samia at right guard. He was a guy that he basically redshirted the first year. And Oli Udia, what are they going to get out of him? So this is definitely a very exciting year for the Vikings. They've got a lot of options. And even some guys they picked up later in the draft, which we'll cover a little bit. We'll cover next week. We'll talk about the Vikings draft next week. But I definitely think that this is a very good thing of building for the Vikings. And I think Brian O'Neill is going to go out and break out next year. I think he's going to be... I'm hoping for the first Vikings Pro Bowl lineman in who knows however long. It's been a while. Anywho, just remember to leave a comment. Do you think Brian O'Neill will be a Pro Bowl right tackle in 2020? I certainly think so.